Chapter 25. The Sea. They came to the edge of a ledge with a small drop down onto the sand of a beach. "The sea!" exclaimed Simon. "Finally!" Steam panted with his tongue out. He wasn't used to this warmer weather. They all ran down to the water's edge and played in the waves. After they had had their fun, they sat down in the shade of a tree with giant blue leaves that flapped in the gentle breeze. "Now what?" Kenny asked. "Are we supposed to swim?" He looked out towards the horizon, then along the sandy beach both ways. He looked up into the sky. There weren't any animals. "Can we pull a speedboat out of that?" he asked, pointing to the bag of wonders on the ground next to Sarah. Sarah opened the bag and thought as hard as she could about a speedboat. She reached her hand into the bag, but nothing came out. "No, I don't think it works like that," she replied. "Maybe we can make a boat," Simon suggested, as he stood up, brushing away the sand. Guys," Sarah said, sounding concerned. "I don't feel right." Sarah started morphing into a strange blob. She started to turn colour into a coral pink. "What's happening?" she called out in a panicked yell. She tried moving her arms, but they were shrinking and were just short little stubs. Simon, Kenny and Steam all stepped back, not sure what they could do. Within seconds, Sarah had transformed. She had become a giant manta ray. "I'm a Mimi!" she exclaimed, excitedly wriggling her slimy wings. Being out of the water was not a good place to be. She could feel herself drying out in the heat of the day. Simon and Kenny stood there with their eyes wide open. They moved closer to Sarah and tried to lift her. She was too heavy. "Don't worry," Sarah said confidently. "I've got this." She arched her back and pushed a shuffle forward. She surprised herself at how far she had moved. Another two of those, and she landed with a splash in the water. "Oh," she sighed. "That's better." She swam around, flapping her wings. She went a bit further out and got enough speed that she managed to jump out of the water. She turned around to look at her tail. It wasn't like a manta ray in the real world. Instead of one tail, she had three, and she could move them like a propeller. She swam around, practicing what she could do in her new body. "I guess we now have a way across," Simon said with a grin. "That is, if you don't mind." "Come on," Sarah said with a wave. "Get on." Simon and Kenny climbed onto Sarah's back, which was soft and slimy. "Ugh, yuck," Kenny said. "You can swim if you want to," Sarah's voice replied in warning. Kenny said nothing else. Steam was standing on the water's edge. He didn't mind a little bit of water, but he didn't like it if he couldn't see the bottom. "I think I'll just stay here," he said, trying to come up with an excuse. "No, you're coming with us. There's plenty of room," Sarah said. "It'll be fine." Steam hesitated, but the encouragement from the others managed to persuade him. When they were all sat down as securely as they could, Sarah started off across the gentle waves. It wasn't how manta rays would normally swim, but she couldn't exactly go under the water with her brothers and Steam on her back. So she cut through the gentle waves like a boat, with her three tails whizzing about like a propeller. As she picked up speed, Simon, Kenny and Steam all ducked down to keep their heads out of the spray of the water. As they zoomed across the flat sea, they lost sight of the land behind them and couldn't see anything else but water around them. "I hope you know where you're going," Simon shouted over the wind. "I hope so too," Sarah replied with a giggle. Kenny lifted his head up to look around. "Look," he said, pointing to their starboard side. There were other manta rays swimming alongside them, jumping out of the water. They were smaller than Sarah and were either light blue or light green. There must have been about 50 of them. They swam and jumped along playfully for a couple of miles and then left the trio and Steam to continue on their way. The sunny sky didn't have a cloud in it. It was hot, but the cool breeze and the water were keeping them cool. Sarah felt like she had an endless supply of energy. She didn't feel tired at all. They kept going, and after several hours, Simon spotted something on the horizon. "Land!" he shouted with excitement. "Well, I think it's land." As they sped closer towards it, they could see it more clearly. It was a barren coastline with no trees or signs of life. It was the edge of the desert, where it met the sea. Sarah slowed down as they got closer. All of them looked up and down the coastline, looking for any sign of life. There was nothing but sand and a few rocks. "Oh, look!" Kenny said. "A skeleton!" He pointed towards the skeleton of a huge whale that must have been washed ashore. When they got close enough to shore, they jumped into the water and waded up to the sand. Sarah sat in the water, waiting for something to happen. Guys, how do you turn back?" she asked, with a slight worry in her voice. "I don't want to be like this forever." "You have to think about being human again," Simon said. "But not too hard, otherwise it won't happen," Kenny added. Sarah closed her eyes and scrunched her forehead. Nothing happened. "Oh, this is annoying," she said, splashing her wings in frustration. "I just want to be me again." As she raised her voice, she snapped back into Sarah. "Oh, that's better," she said more calmly, standing up from the water. "Although I don't know how I am still wearing the same clothes. As a Mimi, I wasn't wearing anything." "I don't know," said Kenny, "but I'm glad you're wearing clothes now." "Oh, be quiet," she snapped back with a glare. All of them looked at the desolate land before them. "Why did we come here?" Sarah asked to no one in particular. "We're supposed to find the Emerald Orb," Kenny said, knowing full well that Sarah knew that. Simon, sensing that the twins were going to start bickering again, decided to take the lead. "We need to find some shade." "I agree," Steam said, as he trotted ahead of them, scanning the distance. After 10 minutes, they were all feeling the heat. They had been out in the sun for too long and could feel their skin burning. They trudged on through the sand, trying to cover themselves with their shirts and bags. As they walked, they became dizzy and lightheaded. "Is that an oasis?" Kenny asked, looking at a hazy image in the distance. "Or is it a mirage?" "I don't see anything," Simon replied. "I see it too," Sarah said. "I think." Steam was feeling far too hot with his thick fur coat that was meant for the icy Arctic winds, not the scorching desert heat. He panted. "I think I can smell water," he said, running ahead. "Yes!" he shouted back. "There's an oasis!" The others ran to him. They couldn't believe their eyes as they got closer. There were trees and animals around a large lake of water. They were delirious from the heat. As they reached the shade of a large tree, Steam lay down and the trio collapsed on the ground. All three of them fell into a deep sleep.